Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Ever get that feeling like you're trying to help someone, but your advice just totally misses the mark?
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe you're the one getting the help, and it feels more like, well...
It's more of a hindrance than a help, right?
Exactly. And that's precisely what we're diving into today with Helping Heuristics.
That's right.
It's a liberating structure that aims to completely revamp how we give and receive help.
It's interesting because this helping heuristics thing, it views every interaction as an offer.
Oh, like an improv.
Yeah, just like improv. You can either accept those offers, build on them, or block them.
I see.
And that completely changes how we think about our conversations.
Especially those tricky situations where someone's looking for help.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely not a one-way street.
Right.
We've dabbled in liberating structures before on this show.
We have.
But this one particularly grabbed me because it directly addresses something we all struggle with on a daily basis.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, instead of just assuming we know how to help, helping heuristics breaks it down into 4 distinct patterns.
Oh, like a guidebook.
Yeah, like a guidebook for those how can I support you moments.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break down these patterns. The first one, quiet presence.
Yeah.
Now that seems a bit counterintuitive.
It does.
How is just being there helpful?
Well, it's all about creating a safe space for the person to process their own thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
Without judgment or interruption.
So no jumping in with advice.
Exactly.
Got it. Think of it like active listening, but amped up.
Yeah, active listening on steroids.
You're totally present, absorbing not just their words, but their emotions too.
Yes, and it's about letting them lead the conversation.
Okay.
Letting their needs dictate how the interaction unfolds.
Rather than imposing your own agenda on them.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. It's almost like holding a space for their emotions to settle.
Yeah.
So they can start to see things a bit more clearly.
That's a great way to put it.
Now, the second pattern, guided discovery. This one takes a slightly more active approach, right?
It does.
Here, the focus shifts to asking open-ended questions that help the person uncover their own solutions.
Right.
You know, I've always loved that saying,
What is it?
give a man a fish and you feed him for a day.
Yes.
Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
I love that one.
Guided discovery feels like that teaching someone to fish moment.
Absolutely. It's all about empowering the person to find their own way instead of handing them a ready-made solution.
Right. So picture this, a friend's freaking out about a job interview.
Okay.
Instead of telling them exactly what to say, you could ask,
What could you ask?
what parts of the interview are you most nervous about?
Oh, that's good.
Or what strengths do you really want to highlight?
I like that. Those questions encourage them to think critically about their situation and
Yeah.
tap into their own resources.
It's a subtle shift, but I imagine it makes a world of difference in how the person feels about the help they're receiving.
Oh, absolutely. Instead of feeling like they're being told what to do, they feel empowered to take ownership of the situation.
Okay, let's move on to the spicier pattern, loving provocation.
Ooh, yeah.
This is where advice finally enters the picture,
It does.
but with a very specific flavor, right?
It does. And this is where things can go wrong if you're not careful.
I bet.
It's about offering advice that's truly helpful and relevant, but framed in a supportive way,
Okay,
not critical.
so it's not just blurting out your opinion.
No.
It's about carefully observing the situation,
Uh-huh.
understanding the person's perspective before offering your 2 cents.
Exactly.
Right.
Think about that friend who's always complaining about their job,
Oh yeah, we all have one.
but never does anything to change it.
Yeah.
Loving provocation might be saying something like, have you thought about looking for a new job? What's holding you back?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It challenges them gently,
It does.
but still encourages them to reflect on their choices.
Exactly.
The loving part seems crucial here.
It is crucial. It's about conveying that you care
Yeah.
and want what's best for them, even if your advice might initially be met with some resistance.
Right.
You're not trying to fix them. You're trying to nudge them towards their own realization.
It feels like a delicate dance,
It is.
requiring a high degree of self-awareness and empathy.
You hit the nail on the head. It's not a pattern to use lightly.
All right, on to the final pattern, process mindfulness.
Yes.
This is like the black belt of helping heuristics.
It is.
What makes this one so advanced?
Well, it's like you're both a participant and an observer in the interaction at the same time.
Wow.
You're engaged in the conversation, but you're also paying close attention to the dynamics, the energy shifts, the nonverbal cues.
Whoa, that sounds like a mental juggling act.
It does take practice, but think of it like being attuned to the rhythm of the conversation.
Okay.
You sense when to offer support, when to ask a probing question, when to simply be silent.
It's like dancing.
Yes.
You're responding to your partner's movements while also leading them through the steps.
That's a fantastic analogy. And the more you practice, the more intuitive it becomes. You start to pick up on those subtle cues and adjust your approach seamlessly.
So we've laid out these 4 distinct helping patterns.
We have.
But the source material also delves into those common, sometimes cringeworthy mistakes we make when trying to help.
Yes, it does.
Right.
And those examples really bring the challenges to life.
They do.
Think about those fixer friends who jump to solutions before you've even finished explaining the problem.
Oh, yeah.
Or the times we try to force advice on someone when they're clearly not receptive. Helping Heuristics reminds us to offer quiet presence, instead allowing the person to process their emotions.
I've definitely been on both sides of that equation.
I think we all have.
It's amazing how often we fall into these unhelpful patterns without even realizing it.
It is. And on the flip side, sometimes we struggle to ask for help effectively.
Oh.
We might downplay the situation, hesitant to reveal the real issue.
Right.
Or we passively accept help without taking ownership of the solution.
It's like going to the doctor and only describing half your symptoms.
Exactly.
They can't give you the right treatment if they don't have the full picture.
They can't. And you end up relying on others to fix things for you, which can be disempowering in the long run.
Wow, this is resonating on so many levels.
Yeah.
I can already see how this framework can help us become more conscious and intentional in our interactions.
That's the beauty of it. It's not about being perfect. It's about being aware of these patterns and having the tools to navigate those tricky helping moments with more grace and skill.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, and it's this first part of our Helping Heuristics deep dive. We've got these 4 powerful interaction patterns, and we've started to unpack those common pitfalls that trip us up.
We have, but we're just getting started.
Welcome back to our deep dive on Helping Heuristics. It's amazing how such a simple concept can have such a huge impact on how we interact with each other, right?
I know, it's crazy. And the beauty of these 4 patterns is that they're not meant to be like strict rules. They're more like flexible guidelines that you can adapt to different situations.
That makes sense. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, right?
Right. What works for one person might not work for another, and the context of the interaction matters too.
Exactly. So let's revisit those 4 patterns and imagine how they might actually play out in different scenarios.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's say someone you know is going through a really tough time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they just lost a loved one or received some bad news.
Right.
In that situation, I can see how quiet presence would be the most appropriate response.
I agree.
Just being there, offering a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah.
Without trying to fix anything or offer unsolicited advice.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
precisely what quiet presence is all about.
Right.
It's about holding space for someone's grief or pain without trying to force them into a more positive mindset.
Yeah, it's about acknowledging their feelings and letting them know that it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
But what if someone's struggling with a problem, but they seem stuck in a particular way of thinking?
That's where guided discovery can be super helpful.
Oh, right.
Remember those open-ended questions we talked about?
Yes.
By asking those, you can help them explore different perspectives, and they might even uncover solutions they hadn't considered before.
It's like that moment when you're working on a puzzle
Yeah.
and someone gives you just a little hint.
A little nudge in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. And then suddenly you unlock the solution.
Right.
You still feel like you solved it yourself,
Yeah.
but you needed that gentle guidance to get there.
I love that analogy. It's perfect.
And it's amazing how much wisdom people already have within themselves.
It really is.
Sometimes they just need a little help bringing it to the surface.
Absolutely. Now, let's say you have a friend who's constantly complaining about a situation,
Okay.
but they don't seem to be taking any action to change it.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Where am I going?
Loving provocation. Time to shake things up a bit.
That's right. But remember, it's all about the delivery. You want to challenge them in a way that's supportive and encouraging,
Yes.
not judgmental or harsh.
You know, I used to struggle with this. I would always jump into fix-it mode,
Oh, yeah.
offering advice that wasn't always welcome.
Oh, I've been there.
Learning about loving provocation has made me more aware of how to approach those conversations with more empathy and tact.
That's fantastic. It's a skill that takes practice and refinement, but the payoff can be huge in terms of strengthening your relationships and helping others grow.
Now, what about process mindfulness?
Yes, the black belt of helping heuristics.
Right. We called it the black belt. What makes it so challenging?
Well, it's about being both a participant and an observer in the interaction,
No.
paying attention to those subtle cues.
Okay.
The energy shifts the unspoken dynamics.
I admit I'm still wrapping my head around how to do that effectively.
It's not easy, especially in emotionally charged situations.
Right.
But think of it like learning to play a musical instrument.
Yeah.
At first, you're fumbling with the notes, feeling awkward and unsure. But with practice, you start to develop a feel for the rhythm, the flow, the nuances.
So it's about developing a sensitivity to the emotional undercurrents of the conversation.
Exactly. And it's not just about observing the other person, it's also about being aware of your own reactions, your own triggers.
Oh, interesting.
And how they might be influencing the interaction.
I'm starting to see how this connects to the concept of emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
The more aware you are of your own emotions and how they impact others,
Yes.
the more effectively you can navigate these helping conversations.
It's a powerful combination. And the beauty of liberating structures in general is that they're adaptable to any context.
Let's go.
So even if you're not a therapist, coach, or teacher,
Right.
these principles can still be incredibly valuable in your everyday life.
Whether you're dealing with a difficult colleague, a struggling friend, or even a teenager who's rolling their eyes at everything you say,
Oh yeah, teenagers, those are tough.
helping heuristics can give you a new framework for approaching those interactions.
For sure. And the key is to remember that it's a practice, not a performance.
Oh, that's good.
You're not always going to get it right.
Right.
But every interaction is an opportunity to learn, grow, and deepen your understanding of yourself and others.
So let's say you're ready to actually put these helping heuristics into practice.
Okay.
The source material had some great tips for getting the most out of the exercise, right?
It did. One of the key takeaways was the importance of building trust
Okay.
and creating a safe space for exploration.
Right.
Remember, this isn't about one person being the expert and the other being the student.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative process.
So you're both coming to the table with a willingness to learn and grow together.
Exactly. It's not about imposing your solutions on someone else, but rather co-creating a path forward.
And they also emphasize the importance of nonverbal communication,
Yes, they do.
which goes hand in hand with process mindfulness.
It does.
Pay attention to body language, tone of voice, facial expressions.
All of it.
All of those things convey so much.
They do. It's almost like becoming a detective.
Yeah.
Looking for those subtle clues that reveal what's really going on beneath the surface.
And I imagine that can be especially important when working with someone who might be hesitant to express their true feelings directly.
Absolutely. Sometimes people might say one thing, but their body language might be telling a completely different story.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Being attuned to those nonverbal cues can help you respond in a way that's truly helpful and supportive.
And finally, they remind us to be patient with ourselves.
Yes, such an important reminder.
These skills take time and practice to develop. It's okay to stumble along the way.
Exactly. Don't get discouraged if you don't master these patterns overnight.
Right.
It's a journey, not a destination. And the more you practice, the more natural and intuitive it will become.
We've talked a lot about the different ways these patterns can be applied,
We have.
but I'm curious about those professions mentioned earlier, like nursing, coaching, teaching.
Yeah.
Why are those fields particularly well suited for helping heuristics?
Well, all of those professions involve a deep level of human connection
Yeah.
and a focus on supporting others.
So,
Nurses, for example, are constantly interacting with patients who are often feeling vulnerable, scared, and in need of comfort.
right. And those interactions can be incredibly delicate and nuanced.
They can.
A nurse's ability to listen empathetically, offer reassurance, and provide guidance without being overbearing can make a world of difference in a patient's experience.
It really can. And it's not just about providing medical care.
Oh, right.
It's also about acknowledging the emotional and psychological needs of the patient.
Yeah.
Helping heuristics can give nurses a framework for navigating those complex interactions with more skill and sensitivity.
And as it goes for coaches and teachers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're both in the business of helping people grow and develop, whether it's in a specific skill, a career path, or simply as a human being.
They need to understand how to motivate, encourage, and challenge their students or clients in a way that's both supportive and empowering.
Yeah,
Helping heuristics can be a valuable tool in their arsenal.
it can.
I love how this framework can be applied in so many different contexts.
Me too. It's so versatile.
Whether you're a professional caregiver, a mentor, a friend, or a family member, these patterns can help you become a more effective and compassionate helper.
And as we become more skilled in these patterns, we not only improve our ability to help others,
Right.
but we also deepen our own self-awareness and enhance our relationships overall.
This conversation has been so insightful. I'm already feeling inspired to try out these patterns in my own life.
Me too.
And I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear more about how this all connects to the bigger picture of human interaction.
For sure. In our final part, we'll explore some of the broader implications of helping heuristics
Okay.
and how it intersects with other fascinating concepts like emotional intelligence, psychological safety, and the power of nonverbal communication.
Welcome back, everyone. It's amazing how much we've covered already in our exploration of helping heuristics.
I know, right? We've unpacked those 4 interaction patterns and even touched on those common helping mistakes we all make.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. And in this final part, we get to zoom out a bit
We do.
and look at how helping heuristics fits into the bigger picture of human interaction.
The grand scheme of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We hinted at this earlier, but I'm really curious to hear more about how this framework connects to other concepts like emotional intelligence.
Oh, that's a great connection. Well, think about it. Emotional intelligence is about understanding and managing our own emotions,
Right.
but also being sensitive to the emotions of others.
And that's crucial for effective helping, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're not in tune with the other person's emotional state, you might offer advice that's completely off base or even hurtful.
Even if you have good intentions?
Even with the best intentions, remember those unhelpful helping patterns we talked about?
Yeah.
Those often stem from a lack of emotional intelligence.
Like jumping in with solutions before someone's even had a chance to process their feelings.
Exactly. Or offering advice that's more about making ourselves feel better than actually addressing the other person's needs.
Oof, been there.
And on the receiving end, a lack of emotional intelligence might lead us to react defensively to well-intentioned feedback
Oh, yeah.
or struggle to articulate our own needs clearly.
So helping heuristics can actually be seen as a tool for strengthening our emotional intelligence muscles.
I like that, strengthening those emotional intelligence muscles, especially when it comes to helping others.
And it's not just about emotional intelligence. It also connects to that idea of psychological safety.
Oh, yes. That's so important.
Remember our deep dive on building trust in teams.
Of course.
It's about creating an environment where people feel comfortable being vulnerable, sharing their struggles without fear of judgment.
And that is essential for effective helping, too.
It is.
If someone doesn't feel safe opening up to you, they're less likely to receive your help,
It makes sense.
no matter how
Good your
well-
intentions are.
It's like that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's so true, and that's where quiet presence comes in.
Right.
By just listening without judgment, you create that safe space for the other person to share what's on their mind. You're saying, I care, I'm here for you, and you're not alone.
I think this also ties into the power of nonverbal communication.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not always about what we say, but how we say it.
Right. Our body language, tone of voice, facial expressions.
They all speak volumes.
They do. And process mindfulness is all about being attuned to those nonverbal cues.
Yes.
Both in ourselves and in the other person.
So it's not just about the words themselves.
No, it's about noticing those subtle shifts in energy, the hesitations, the eye contact, the body language that might reveal what's really going on beneath the surface.
Almost like becoming a human lie detector.
Kind of. But instead of trying to catch someone in a deception,
Right.
you're trying to uncover their deeper needs and emotions.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about developing a sensitivity to the unspoken language of emotions, which can be even more powerful than words.
For sure. This whole conversation has made me realize that helping is a much more complex and nuanced skill than we often give it credit for.
I agree with you there. It's not simple.
And I think helping heuristics gives us a really valuable framework for navigating that complexity.
It does. It's not about having all the answers or being the expert in someone else's life.
It's about approaching these interactions with humility, curiosity, and a willingness to learn and adapt.
Exactly. And recognizing that we're all constantly offering and receiving help in so many ways.
All the time, big and small.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on helping heuristics, what's the one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember?
That's a great question. I think the most important thing is to remember that this is a practice, not a performance.
Oh, I love that.
You're going to stumble, you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay.
That's part of learning.
It is. It's all part of the process.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And even small shifts in our awareness and our approach to helping can make a world of difference.
Couldn't agree more. Well, this has been such a rich and rewarding conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure. And thanks to all our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into helping heuristics. We hope you learned some valuable new tools for navigating those tricky helping moments. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep helping each other navigate this messy, beautiful thing called life.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.